this. I know you have loans to repay and work to do and family, but it's great that you want to be civic participants in Philly and learn a little and serve on a board of a nonprofit. Maybe we can go around and just tell me your name and what nonprofit you're currently serving on.
Good morning, my name is Laura Spencer and I'm with the Philadelphia Bar Foundation.
Great.
Hi, I'm Ben Eichel and I'm with Tabor.
I'm Maura Egan. I'm with the Atlantic Center for Capital Representation.
And maybe if you could tell me what Tabor does, and I mean, we all know what the Bar Foundation does.
Sure.
What is
Tabor provides children's services to a segment in Philadelphia.
Great.
The Atlantic Center basically is just involved in capital case tracking and pretty much participating in as many capital cases as possible, both in Pennsylvania and nationally now too.
Alex Egerberry, PAS's project does helping free people who are wrongly convicted.
Nick Stevens, and I'm volunteering at Community Services.
Andy Mallon, and I'm with the Public Interest Law Center.
Emily Ryan Fiore, legal counsel for the disabled.
Danielle Price from the Organized Citizens Group.
Caitlin Flaherty, I'm with Canine Partners for Life, their service dogs. Keith Stanko, I'm on the steering committee.
George Brandon Board of Directors for Philadelphia DIP.
Mike Jones, the Philadelphia Bar Foundation.
Caroline Crowley, also with Women Organized Against Rape.
Raina Yancey, and with the Library Company of Philadelphia. It was a library started by Ben Franklin, and they allow researchers to come and do historical research for free.
Colin Burgess, and I'm with Photography Without Borders. We provide children, especially in certain parts of the city, with photography opportunities.
Maria Salmigo, I'm with Council for Relationships. They provide therapy services for low-income families.
John Ritchie, I'm with Rebuilding Together Philadelphia. They help repair and restore homes to low-income people in the region can stay in their houses.
Hi, I'm Claire Grandison, Board Observer for Disability Rights Pennsylvania.
I'm Colleen Byrne. I'm the Development and Communications Coordinator at the Bar Foundation.
Paul Kirk, Director of Operations, Philadelphia Bar Foundation.
Great. Well, thank you all for volunteering to be in this program and to learn more about nonprofits and to serve on a nonprofit. So I'm Fernando Chang Moy. I teach at Penn, some blocks away, some direction. And I teach SAD law. I teach immigration law, refugee law, but I also teach nonprofit management. And many of my students end up working in a big law firm, like maybe some of you do, by day, and by night they serve on boards. Only 3 students in a cohort of 200 or 300 end up working in a nonprofit. Not surprisingly, salaries are so low, and we have debts to pay. So the Bar Foundation has asked me over the years to do a brief intro 101 to what makes a nonprofit tick and what are roles and duties. Matt told me that because you're already serving on boards, you're sort of learning by baptism by fire as to your roles and duties on boards. I think that maybe, not to tell them what to do, it would be great to first be trained and then to place you, but that's fine. You can do both things at the same time. So in the 50 minutes that we have left, these are the 3 things that I was invited to talk to you about. So just to talk about what makes a nonprofit. And by the way, the stuff that I'm going to talk about also applies to for-profits, very little difference. The second thing, hopefully you'll walk out of here, I'll just touch upon life cycle of a nonprofit, but you're going to have your own workshop on that, a standalone 1 hour, but I'll just give a sneak preview. And then the third thing, and that's what most of the time we spend on, is given the context of what makes a nonprofit tick, what is your role in inserting yourself in any one of the core areas or core competencies of a nonprofit? What I'm going to go through is normally 8 hours that I spend in a 14-week course, but I'm going to smoosh it all in like an hour and do the best that I can. All right, so, well, if time permits, we'll talk about committees. What are some committees, and you might already be serving on committees, and how to integrate the work of the committee with the larger goal or mission of the nonprofit. All right, so let me just ask you, if you could just yell out. When you think of car parts, what do you think are key important parts that makes a car run?
Steering wheel.
Steering wheel.
Engine.
Engine.
Wheels.
Wheels. All right. when you think of our human bodies, what are some key parts that makes us healthy and wealthy and maybe wise? Heart, brain, think of Wizard of Oz. Heart, brain, etc. And then when you think of a house, now I'm going to use my little board here. When you think of a building, like the one that we're in, what are some key parts of a building? So cars have parts, bodies have parts, and buildings have parts. So what are some key parts of a building?
Foundation.
The floor, the foundation,
The roof.
the roof.
Walls.
Yes. And windows maybe. All right, this is a terrible room to do this in, but could you talk to, like, maybe you three get together and you three squish together and you three get together? So just like cars have parts and bodies have parts and buildings have parts, nonprofits also have parts, for-profits have almost the same parts. Could you just talk to each other for 1 minute and brainstorm what do you think are some key parts of a nonprofit? You can brainstorm as to your particular nonprofit. So just talk with each other for 1 minute, and then we'll come back.
Just so you all know, sorry, I forgot to mention this earlier. We're going to be recording this as a podcast to upload to our YouTube channel so you guys can listen back. But just so you know, I'm just recording it on my phone. If anyone isn't comfortable, just let me know.
Providing direction to management.
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
Yeah, then maybe
I'm not sure exactly what this question is.
Hey, why don't you go around and talk all
the people that you serve.
list? Could you just name one thing that you talked about?
Fundraising.
Okay, so we need money. Anything else that's not fundraising?
Outreach to the community.
We need outreach. Would you all work together? Something?
Staff.
So we need people who work there. Yeah.
So we said the mission.
We need a mission. Okay. You got it?
You said some sort of space to meet.
Okay.
That mission.
So we need facilities. So sometimes you can run a nonprofit in your bedroom. What do you want to talk about?
Like governance, like the rules.
Okay, so we need a board. All right, so far we've said we need people who work there, we need governance, we need a board, we need money, we need to tell people what we do outreach. We might need a building and we need a mission. What else?
People to help.
People to help, not staff?
Yeah, like the community, like
Like
finding
volunteers, okay. So we need, some nonprofits have volunteers. Let's keep going around until we fill up parts of the house. What else? Anything else you said that's not been said?
We talked about the client base, their constituency.
We need clients. Anything else? It's all, this is exhaustive? So a couple things missing. Once the money's in the bank, what do we do with the money? Goes under the mattress, there's a name.
Accountant.
Managing the finances, which could be an endowment. So a typical name for that is financial management systems. And the last one, everyone here is under 30. So what do we all do? Technology. So this is what we call in this nonprofit world your 4 core competencies that makes a nonprofit tick. One is your programs that serve your clients. That's why we got started, to help dogs, to help kids, to help people on death row. Then the second core competency is people who work there for pay or for no pay. though sometimes the staff at nonprofits earn so little compared to the for-profit that they feel like they're volunteers. I just saw a former student of mine who came in on Friday, and she says that at White and Case, maybe it's the same thing at Obermeyer, for the first year they're paying $190 plus $5,000 bonus, and second year $200,000. So the heads of nonprofits are not making this much.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? We couldn't hear you on this end.
Repeat what?
The pay that you do, whatever you just mentioned.
Yeah, at White and Case in New York anyway, my 27-year-old student who just graduated last year is earning $190 with $5,000 bonus. In year 2, she'll earn $200,000 with $15,000 bonus. I had her write all this down because I couldn't believe it. So I'm just telling everybody that I meet. The pay in New York, which is maybe the same in Philadelphia. She showed me her schedule. It was amazing. So anyway, but this is to say that nonprofit staff do not earn that. The head of a PILCOP or Community Legal Services, who's a baby boomer in her 50s, 60s, is not earning $200,000 a year, whereas a 27-year-old is. Anyway, back to what makes a nonprofit tick. You have programs, which is the foundation, that's where you got started. You have people who work there for pay or for free. And competency number 3 is you have a board and systems at the board level, which is great that you're all taking in these series of workshops to strengthen your governance when you start, as you start on the board. And competency number 4 is what I call operations. And under operations, I'm going to use green for money. We have systems to bring in the money, systems to allocate the money, your financial management systems to tell your story, outreach or marketing and communications, systems to deal with your technology, can you get in, off-site, and systems to kill the cockroaches and the mice, facilities, water, sprinklers, and all that. So this is what we call your 4 core competencies that makes a nonprofit tick. And for the next 40 minutes left, I can see the City Hall clock, that's really great. We'll just explore what is your role as to each of these areas that makes a nonprofit run. Now, you all work in law firms, or maybe at a store, just make this up, or Starbucks or Walmart. All the things that make a for-profit run are the same things that make a nonprofit run, with some exceptions. For-profits don't have programs, they have products and services. So Starbucks does not have a program, it has a product, coffee. Starbucks does have people who work there. PILCOP has people who work there. Starbucks may or may not have a board. Maybe they have a corporate board somewhere in Seattle, Washington. And Starbucks does not have fundraising, but they use another word, but it's just like fundraising. It's sales. So law firms sell their legal services to the tune of about $1,400 per hour or something like that, and maybe an associate charges $300 or $400 an hour. But nonprofits don't sell, they raise money to pay their staff, to serve their clients, to clean the rugs, etc. Now, for-profits have one source of funding, the client. Nonprofits have 12 possible sources of funding. I'll just break this down quickly. One possible source of funding is from the public sector, and another source of funding from our nonprofit is from the private sector. I'm told that in September they're going to get a workshop on fundraising. So whoever's going to talk will open up this folder more and talk about the various sources of funding of a nonprofit. From the public sector, the nonprofits whose board you serve on could get money, here's the chimneys, from the federal government, from the state government, county, or city. And the nonprofits whose board you serve on could get money from the private sector, such as foundations, like the Philadelphia Bar Foundation, the Philadelphia Foundation, Wells Fargo Regional Foundation, etc. You could get money from corporations, the law firm of Obermeyer, Walmart, American Airlines. You could get money from for-profits. You could get monies, and then there's others, from individual human beings, from fee-for-service, from membership, from an endowment. You park your money in the kitty, and then you live off the interest of the principal. So at the end of this month, I believe, the flower show is going to start. The flower show at the convention center over there is a program of a larger nonprofit. The larger nonprofit is, anybody know? Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. So several years ago, many years ago, a board member of the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society, a well-known mainline wealthy woman by the name of Jane Pepper, asked her friends of the mainline to donate money to PHS, but not for programs, but for their endowment. So every year, Jane Pepper harasses her friends. Let's put $1,000, $1,000 all of you, $1,000 all of you. They now have a huge endowment, and they live off the interest of the principal. Given what I know of the nonprofits in this room whose boards you serve on, they may not have an endowment, but as a board member, that's something that you may want to raise. Like, are we ready to set up an endowment and not touch that money that people give to us? And the executive director might say, no, we cannot do that. Money in has to go to money out to pay for our staff and to clean up the rugs and to buy new computers, et cetera, et cetera. So we cannot afford to bring in money and not touch it, at least not now. And then you can talk back, and we'll talk more about this in September when you have a workshop on fundraising. So there you have it. Again, cards have parts, buildings have parts, and our human bodies have parts, and these are the 4 key parts of a nonprofit. By the way, there's a nonprofit in Harrisburg, and it's called PANO, which stands for the Pennsylvania Association of Nonprofit Organizations. We also have the United Way of Southeastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. They have like a checklist that just looks like this. So if you were to, so PANO, Google it later, has standards of excellence. And they say if your nonprofit is excellent, it could be doing 60 things. At the program level, you could be doing 10 things, like, do you send your clients a customer satisfaction survey? Do you evaluate your programs? Do people know that you exist? At the HR level, do you have job descriptions? Do you evaluate your staff? Do you do criminal record checks with your staff if you work with kids? Do you say thank you to your volunteers? At the board level, do you have bylaws? Do you rotate people? Do you have terms of office? Do you have a board manual? And when you add up all those things in their dashboard, according to PANO, you could be doing like some 60, 70 things, such that if you do them, you're effective. And the United Way used to have a similar dashboard, though their dashboard was 131 things. But it's basically all the same. So it's like a well-baby check or our self-check of our body. People have a lump here or whatever. So we can do a body check, a car check, a building check, and a nonprofit check. Any questions so far? All the nonprofits that you serve on, am I missing something? 2 more things I want to say because one of you squeezed out. We need a mission statement. Yes, we need 2 more things. Let me go back to black ink. So most effective organizations have 2 other statements. One is a vision statement, and the other one is a value statement, and the third is a mission statement. So let me give you an example and reflect on whether your nonprofits have these 3 statements. So typically you go to their website where it says who we are, you pull down and it says vision, then pull that one down, values, then click on that, and then mission, and that's the more technical one. So because we're in Pennsylvania, which was settled by William Penn, who sits on top of the tower over there, most Quaker schools have a vision, and the vision is, we envision a world of peace. That's their vision, like peace. And their values are, we believe that there is that of God in everyone, which is why the kids call their teachers by their first name. Everyone's equal. And then the mission statement steals a clause from the vision statement, steals a couple of words from the value statement, and then tells the listener or the reader exactly what we do. So founded in 1898, Germantown Friends School envisioned a world of peace, semicolon. We believe that there is that of God in everyone, period. We teach reading, writing, and arithmetic K through 12, and we charge $50,000 a year in Germantown, Pennsylvania, or something like that. All right? So all nonprofits should have a vision statement, a value statement, and a mission statement. If we had much more time, I'd like to talk about values. We don't have time. But values are really important to have, to articulate, because values are like in the DNA of the organization. So there's a value of, let's say, transparency. How does that get played out? Do we publish our tax forms on the website? If we have a value of diversity, how does that get played out? Do we have a diverse board? Do we have diverse staff? So values are really important, but that's not what we're here today. I'm just giving you the big picture of what makes a nonprofit tick. Programs, people, board people, and then operations. Fundraising, finance, marketing, communications, technology, and facilities. Any questions? So what I just said, I'm going to share with you. This is dead. All right, so this is what makes a nonprofit effective. Come on, Obermeyer, you charge a lot of money. They don't even have a battery. Okay, so same thing. It's programs that adapt. So I want you to think about, do the programs that you have adapt to the changing environment? So I teach, as like many teachers, I consult with nonprofits. So I was doing strategic planning with an organization in Fishtown, and their mission statement said that founded in 1878, and I'm not preaching confidentiality, Lutheran Settlement House supports Jewish, Polish, and Czechoslovakian immigrants in Fishtown, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Well, in Fishtown, there's just man buns. There's no more Jewish, Polish, like whatever. So they had to change their programs and even change their mission statement, right? So think about the nonprofits whose boards you serve on. Are their programs adapting to what the customer needs? Another example, none of you said that I am on the board of a food cupboard. So if you were, an example of program adaptability is, for years the food cupboard has served free milk and cheese and beans and so forth. The demographics of the neighborhood has changed. Have your food give outs changed? So now it's all Southeast Asians, Cambodian, Laotians, Vietnamese, who are allergic to milk. And so do you now, in addition to giving milk, have you adapted your programs and give out tofu, for example? So think about program adaptability. Secondly, board leadership is another thing that makes a nonprofit tick. So these are words, that was a picture, same thing that I'm showing you. Do you have human resources management systems in place, just like you have board systems in place and program systems in place? And then do you have operations? Of course you have operations. You have systems to bring in the money, systems to deal with the building, systems to allocate the money, that's your financial management systems, systems to tell the story, and systems to deal with technology. So in half an hour, I've set the context. Now I'm going to go into more detail as to what is your role as a board in working in any one of these areas to make the organization even better and stronger. Questions? All right. Let me go on. So here you have the same information, but like that, but here's a picture. This will take me 30 seconds. It took me like 20 hours to put this together. But so a nonprofit is like a house, got floor, walls, and roof. And these are the four key parts. Your programs, which is why you were born, to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic, to deal with dogs, to make sure the environment is clean, to provide free legal services to low-income people, etc. And then your operations is made up of all these parts, bringing the money in, allocating the money out, telling the story, etc. And then human resources in a nonprofit is two-part, the for-pay people and the volunteer people, which are like law interns or college interns, etc. And then the programs are good if they adapt, and the money can come from two sources, the public sector and the private sector. And we go to foundations for programs. Give me money for the kids program. Give me money for the old people programs. Same thing with corporations. Hello, Obermeyer, give me money for the blah, blah program. We go to human beings for general operating grants. We're fabulous, just give me $25 or give me $1 million. or give me money because we're setting up an endowment, or give me money because we are full of asbestos and we need to get rid of it. So capital as in the architectural use of capital. So those are typical reasons why we go to human beings and not corporate beings. Give me money to set up an endowment. A foundation is not going to give you money for endowment. Give me money to clean up our building. Foundations and corporations are not going to give you money for buildings. So save your asks to foundations and corporations for programs of the organization. But you can go to people. Like, trust me, I'm on the board. You like me. I'm Jane Pepper. I'm your best friend. Give me money. You're rich. Give me money. We're going to park it. We're not going to touch it. We're going to set up an endowment. And lastly, some nonprofits earn income or charge a fee for a service. So I could go to a private immigration attorney to bring in my mother from Jamaica, and they would charge me $5,000, $6,000. Or I could go to Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society or Nationality Services Center, and they would charge me $2,000. I could take my kid to a private babysitter, and they might charge me a lot. Or I could leave my kid at Boys and Girls Club of Kensington, and they might charge me some money, and that would show up in their budget as earned income. And then on the chimney to the right is the thing that all board members love to do, and staff hate it, and that's special events. And staff hate it because you bring it up, but you're not going to look for the restaurant, you're not going to set up, and you're not going to clean up. You're not going to put the flowers on the tables. They're stuck with all that stuff. So, but special events are good. It's been said that special events are good for fundraising, but not for fundraising. Now, to the rule, there's always the exception. So ActionAIDs has a special event every year, but they have a standalone director of development. So this month, it's the Shut Up and Dance from the Philadelphia Ballet. November, it's the famous chefs cook a sweet potato pie, and they sell it for $25. So there's a special event every month, a golf outing in the summer, but they have a director of development who does just all that. They're in charge of the roof, of bringing in money from all these sources of sources. Again, in September, you're going to get a talk on fundraising. So there you have it. Altogether, this makes a nonprofit tick. Let me spend a few minutes, because it's 12:35 and I still have some time, to talk about programs. So in the East Coast, we have many business schools. One is called Wharton, and the other one is, and then on the West Coast, we have another business school. One is called Stanford. Stanford has something that we don't have at Wharton, and that is Stanford has 2 tracks. One is the track where you go in for 2 years and you pay $70,000, $80,000 a year, and then you go out and then you work in the for-profit sector. You have another track at Stanford, which is called the Social Innovation Track. You go in, you also pay your $70,000 a year, but you go there to learn how to work mainly in a nonprofit. Because mainly your spouse has a lot of money and you can now afford to go and work in a nonprofit. But anyway, Stanford has a journal, which is called the Social Innovation Journal. And they come out with really interesting articles. And several years ago, they came out with an article that said, just like for-profits adapt to make money, so should nonprofits adapt to serve their clients. So an example of program adaptability, programs which adapt, is the one that I gave you. So now that you're serving on boards, in a very diplomatic way, not an aggressive, like interrogatory kind of way, say, are we giving the clients what they want, or are we doing the same old, same old? So just think of what your programs are doing. So maybe we only serve dogs for many years. Well, can we serve cats, or crocodiles, or pangolins, which is the most trafficked animal in the world, which is supposed to be the vector for coronavirus? So anyway, so what are we doing as to adapting our programs? Let me throw in one more word, and that is to disrupt. And again, Stanford Social Innovation Review came out with another article, and again they said, just like for-profits are disrupting, maybe nonprofits should also think of disruption. And the example they gave in the for-profit sector of disruption is Google. So Google starts out as a search engine, and now it's like Google Chrome, Google Maps, Google Talk, Google everything. Apple is another for-profit that disrupted. It's, some people say, is Apple, since you all have stock, is Apple a tech stock, or is Apple categorized as an entertainment stock? Because it's like, it's just disrupted the way we do business. And so, in the nonprofit arena, going back to the food stamp food cupboard, so it's great that you adapt. Congratulations for giving out tofu and not just milk, which causes diarrhea in Asia. Do you also take people on a bus, drive them to Harrisburg to meet with policymakers to call for an end to hunger? That would be an example of disruption. So again, when you go back to start serving on your boards, not grossly or aggressively, but thoughtfully, ask at some point, are we doing anything to disrupt? Now, in the legal services nonprofit sector, you could argue that filing class action lawsuits, in addition to doing individual casework, is important. And our class action lawsuits are an example of disruption. And maybe some nonprofits are really good and will continue to be good by doing only direct services, which is great. We need direct services. But is there anything else to change the system, to change the police, the hospitals, the public school system of Philadelphia? So disruption is going to mean different things for different people. But I just want to plant that seed, that individual direct services, teaching the kids how to read, writing, and arithmetic is great. Can we take it to the next level, if at all relevant or possible? I'll just leave it at that. Any questions on my house? It's copyrighted, but I hope you like it. Yes?
What would you say is like a healthy percentage breakdown between the different sources of income?
No answer. Because, for example, there's a particular type of nonprofit that mainly relies on individual, on earned income. And that would be the Pennsylvania Ballet, the Philadelphia Orchestra, 90% of, or all the private schools, all the Quaker schools, all the Catholic schools, most of their income comes from earned income, otherwise known as tuition, or known as subscription to the opera. They still have to hustle. After foundations, corporations, they still have to do a special event. So there's no one answer. I will say you should not put all your eggs in a basket. You should not all buy the same kind of stock in case the stock market goes down. You have some other kinds of stocks here. A nonprofit should not be asking for all, so if you're a public health organization like ActionAid or the Diabetes Association, you should not just rely, so congratulations, you're getting 90% of your funding from the Philadelphia Department of Health to stop diabetes or to stop AIDS. Congratulations. No congratulations, you're stupid, because you're getting 90% of your budget from one source, the Philadelphia Department of Health. And if our budget, if the public sector money goes down, then you're going to be laying off people. So that's why it would be great to diversify all these areas, and there's no one formula, like 35, no, it just depends on the nonprofit. Other questions, comments? All right, it's dead. Let's move on. So now that you have a big picture as to what makes a nonprofit function, let's talk about some roles of board members within this nonprofit. So now let's go internal. So could you again talk to your neighbors and just reflect on 1 minute and reflect on your past service if you've been already serving for a year or so. What are roles of a nonprofit? So we're all lawyers. So all 50 states have 3 duties: duties of loyalty, duty of care, and duty of obedience, which is an old-fashioned word, and it's been interpreted to mean we as board members have duty to comply, to obey, to comply with the law. But my question to you is that I'd like you to explore, and if we had a better room, I'd have you move around so you get to know each other, ask each other for dates, etc. But terrible room. So how do you, if you do these things that you're going to tell me in a minute, you're going to show loyalty, care, and compliance by doing what? So I'll give you a sneak preview, like by attend all board meetings or something like that. So could you come up with a list of things to do such that if you do these things, which is your roles of board members, you are showing loyalty, care, and compliance. Could you talk to each other? And we have like 20 minutes left. Take it away.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Policies annually issued once in a while to make sure how they're going.
I think take what you said before, take care of the money.
Do it through our evidence here.
I think that we're also the type of nonprofit, like your service. Like for example, if you're a grant making nonprofit, then obviously, we have a steward of those funds and make sure they're dispersed and distributed among, the clients, But if you're a nonprofit that offers services, for example,
You don't want to get wrong
and
on that.
then maybe you're more so the board would be kind of like what you
Just
said,
go around
to
and
ensure
see
that your
what you came
programs
up with.
relate back to the
Someone-
mission. So I think it could be,
you got it.
depending on the.
You. One thing that you think is what a board member should be doing, just one. You should fundraise. Thank you. Anything else here?
Making sure to recruit new members.
Replenish ourselves. Anything else? Fundraise, recruit new board members,
Strategic planning.
engage in strategic planning.
Ensuring that operations are consistent with the mission statement, vision statement, and corporate purpose.
Yes. And then through strategic planning, if you do strategic planning, then maybe we need to change the mission statement, the vision statement, and the value statement because it's like they're old. What else?
Anything else? It's kind of covered.
Well, guys, you guys are cheating. What else?
We say compliance with the bylaws.
Comply with the bylaws. Let's keep going until
Those
we're
that
at time.
find individuals who, adding individuals who are connected to the mission and the vision of the board.
Right, so that's a subset of replenishing the board members who are interested in whatever the nonprofit does. Anything else?
You said audit performance of employees and finances to make sure nothing's getting lost or that people are actually, doing.
So audit finances, but the first part of your sentence was what? Audit?
Employee.
So you,
performance
as a board member, you go in and you do
or
evaluate
or hire people to come in and do it, perform an audit on your behalf, and review.
of all the people who work there?
Maybe not all the time,
Okay.
but yeah, occasionally.
So, so typically as board members, you do an, I'll use your word audit, but it's you evaluate the executive director, and then the executive director evaluates everybody below him or her. You do not audit or evaluate the janitor or the head of programs. That's the executive's job. Now, if the organization is just getting started, like you just got your 501c3 last year, you do have to clean the toilets, you do have to paint the walls, and you do have to do all the other stuff because you don't even have an ED. But typically, the chain of command is the board is on top, and it evaluates it hires, fires, and supports and evaluates or audits the executive director, and the executive director does with the same thing with all the people below her. Is anyone here on a board where you're actually evaluating staff that is not the ED? What is? Oh, you don't have to. Let's stay Las Vegas. You don't have to. What?
Does an organization need an ED?
Does an organization need an executive director? What are your thoughts? We have 15 minutes, so we can talk about this for a few seconds.
Don't some have working boards instead, where when you're a smaller organization, the
That's
board
ex-
itself?
That's
is not-
exactly it. Yeah, you're an all-volunteer organization, so you do all the work. But you have a day job and you have family. Are you also going to, at 6 p.m., are you going to go to this nonprofit and do all the shit work? Like, so typically you do want to, I mean, I don't. So maybe we start off by hiring someone part-time at $20,000 a year, and then they fundraise, and they clean the toilets, and they do the programs, and then in 2 years now we have a $50,000 budget, and they can start working full-time, and then they can hire some person to help them out. So the answer to your question depends on the phase of development that the organization is in, and I think in June or something you're going to have a workshop on phases of development. So it just depends. The University of Pennsylvania is not run by the board. Like David Cohen does not teach a class in biology. We have a president and we have, faculty. So it just depends on where you are in the continuum of development. Anybody else want to add anything that you think is a crucial role of a board member? So get money, engage in strategic planning, suggest more people to join the board because your term is out or somebody else's term is off and you want to replenish. Anything else?
Policy.
What's the verb that goes with policy? Develop policy or approve and review policy. And then I could ask you, well, what kind of policy? Like what policy are you talking about?
Terms, I mean, they already brought that.
It could be governance policies, it could be endowment policies, it could be personnel policies, all the parts of the house. You could develop them or you could review them. So here's some typical thing, so thank you. Set policies, and it could be personnel policies, how we invest our money policies, how long should people be on this board kind of policies, so many policies. Another one, it's everything you guys have said. Another role of a board is to engage in strategic planning every so often, 3 to 5 years. You use the word audit, but it's to select, support, audit, or evaluate the executive director. And if he or she isn't working out, fire the sucker. Develop a succession plan. So in some organizations, the founder is still the executive director, or the board chair, or the founder then morphed to become the chair of the board and isn't leaving. Develop a succession plan for yourself and for the executive director. So I lead a very boring life, and this issue of succession is a very hot topic in this other world of nonprofit management. So I'll just name him because he's public about this. So Don Kramer, who works a block away at Montgomery McCracken, believes that there should be no terms of office. And he has some good reasons. And I, since I have the floor, I believe totally different, that there should be terms of office. And the analogy I like to give is in our capitalist American system of government, you can be mayor, governor, and president for 4 years, and then if we like you 4 more years, and then you're out. I think that's a nice thing. We could have bylaws for 4 years. If we like you, we'll nominate you for another 4 years, and then ply your brains, give it to another nonprofit. If you're you are so wonderful, just go to another nonprofit. But do not stay stuck with the same nonprofit forever. Don Kramer thinks of that school of thought, and he's a great nonprofit lawyer who puts out an issue that all of us in this world read. It's nonprofit issues. So develop a succession plan for management, so that, and now we see a bottleneck. So the 30 and 40-year-old thought that they might in some time become the executive director, but the baby boomer is just not leaving. So there's a bottleneck at the management at the left side of the wall of the house, and there's also a bottleneck, well, not even a bottleneck because no one's leaving. No board member is leaving. So you're all old, you're all tired, you're not showing up to meetings. So that's why replenishing yourselves and abiding by terms of office, and that there should be terms of office, this is me speaking, that would be a good thing to do. And then if you do come in contact with the staff, say nice things, especially to the executive director and to all the staff. So in medical schools, they teach doctors bedside manner. In law schools, unless you're enrolled in a legal clinic, they don't teach us like nice skills, listening skills, like how to listen to clients and how to respond and how to do that. We have a refugee law clinic at Penn Law, so we teach our students how not just to say, why did you leave your country? Talk to me. Like we teach them to have, box of Kleenex and to understand that people have gone through trauma and to just be good listeners. And similarly, should we be good listeners and good appreciative board members of the staff who do all the great work, earning $50,000, $60,000 a year at the most. And as our friends over there, your job is to give your money from your own pockets and to get money from others. Some nonprofits have a bottom line, like Pennsylvania Ballet says, if you want to be on the ballet board, you have to give a minimum of $10,000, and that does not get you into the Nutcracker for free. You have to buy subscription. And other nonprofits say you should give to the best of your ability, so that whatever you can afford to give. And that's been, the give and get is been defined as give of your time by coming to board meetings, give of your talents, your legal brains, your real estate brains, your teaching brains, whatever it is that you know, and give of your treasures, your money. So those are general, everyday, traditional roles of board members. Because we have about 6 minutes, I would ask you to talk more, but I'm just going to tell you. This is not how I teach class. I don't just talk at people. I'd rather have people be engaged, but we have a little bit of time, so I just want to give you this, and then we're going to send you the PowerPoints later. So at board meetings, you should tell the board what's going on in your neck of the woods, what's going on in the world of public interest law, or what's going on with the latest in animal veterinary science issues. And you should also, when you go out into the Acme, the Walmarts, just say, I'm on the board of blah, blah, blah. How about a $25 donation bank that I'm doing banking with? So it's bringing information into the nonprofit and sharing information out. And as you said over there, your job is to renew the board's vitality by always nominating or suggesting people who could take your place or other people's place. Now, I said that the board evaluates the executive director. The executive director evaluates everybody below her. Well, who evaluates you? Does God come down and ask how you're doing? So a good practice is to do a board self-assessment. So cook up a Survey Monkey and have all the board members ask this question, do you come to board meetings? Yes, no, maybe, click. Do you serve on a committee? Yes, no, maybe, click. And then someone, maybe the chair of the governance committee, analyzes the responses to this board self-assessment and says, hey, to question number 8, which is, do you give money? Half of the respondents says yes, some said no, and some said, I don't remember if I gave money. So people, we need to talk about money. So do you engage in a board self-assessment? And that's a good practice to do. So, be engaged, be collegial, come to meetings, just be nice. So again, I would ask you, if we had time, can we drill down and come up with more specific duties? I'll just tell you. So general roles are engage in strategic planning, replenish yourself, etc., set policies, many different policies. Here are some things. So come to board meetings, all right? So some nonprofits meet 6 times a year for 2 hours. So to every sentence that I'm putting here, I'm going to add a numerical figure. So 6 meetings times 2 hours equals 12. Read the money stuff, the 990s, the audits, the financial statements. You do that as part of the finance committee if you belong to the finance committee. Serve on a committee. So there might be committees that reflect the House. There might be a fundraising committee, an HR committee, a governance committee, a program committee. So if you belong to any of those committees and they'd only meet 6 times a year times 2, so that's another 12 hours. So you're already devoting 24 hours to be on this committee. Repeat, broken record. Look at board succession, which you might do as part of governance committee things to do. Hire support, evaluate the executive director, which you might do as part of the HR committee or the executive committee, which is in charge of the executive director. Attend board professional development like this, or on a Saturday, once a year, you all go sequester yourselves at the Holiday Inn and you talk about how to read a budget or the latest in HIV/AIDS prevention, if that's what the organization does. Go to the hated, horrible special event where you all have to eat rubber chicken and pay $50, but that's part of your duty as a board member. So when you add up all these numbers, 12, 12, 4, 6, at a minimum, you are devoting 34 hours a year, or the typical is 52 hours a year, which is like 1 hour a week. When you go to the 990s, which is, as human beings, we fill out the 1040. As nonprofit beings, you fill out the 990. In part 7, it asks the filler outer, the executive director and your CPA. It has its rows going across, the name of the board member and the hours they put in, the name of the board member, the hours put in. Next to your names should either be like 0.5 or 1 or 1.5 hours per week. So if you're going to be a good board member, it's good to devote at least an hour a week, which equals 52 hours a year. So review the 990s of your organizations and see what you're telling the Internal Revenue Service. Like, how many hours do our board members spend on this nonprofit? Does anybody spend more than an hour or two a week, or more than 52 a year? What is the minimum you think you're giving to your boards? Guesses?
I've been to one board meeting, so I don't think.
So 1 hour. No, 4 hours. Okay, all right, great, all right. So allocate it out over the year. A nice number is like 52 hours per year. So check out your 990s and see what we're telling the government as to the hourly commitment of our board members. And I'm hoping that the CPA person who filled out the 990 didn't just pull a number out of the hat, that it is based on something like what's on this slide. So to wrap up, some typical committees could mirror the House over there. So you might have a committee that deals with board leadership, and we typically call that the governance committee. In the old days, we would call it the nominating committee or the bylaws committee. But all those things, bylaws, nominating, and all that, I clump under the word governance. So do you have a governance committee that nurtures and waters the board? Do you have a committee that deals with human resources as to the ED? Sometimes it's the executive committee, or sometimes you have a standalone human resources committee that deals with setting personnel policies, vacation times, and all that stuff. Do you have a committee of the board that deals with the programs of the organization? And finally, do you have any of these committees that deal with operations? Do you have a facilities committee? Because maybe we're moving, it's going to be an ad hoc committee, so we need someone to deal with that. We definitely need a fundraising committee. So you 3 board members are members of the fundraising committee, and you liaise with the director of development, if the organization has a director of development, and you figure out strategies to bring in more money for the organization. And once the money's in the bank, do we have a finance committee? Smaller nonprofits, the two are collapsed. A committee, members of the board that think of bringing the money in, and members of the board that think about allocating the money out. Sometimes it's the same people, sometimes it's different people. And finally, do we need a marketing committee? Maybe you're a website maven, and you're going to do the website for free for the organization. And do we need a technology committee? So here you are, and this is phase of development, which you'll talk, and I'm wrapping up. So in phase 1, we are in the recruiting system. We're just a year or two old. We're getting our boards together. In phase 2, the committees, the board members are more engaged. There's more systems in place. We have board manuals, we have bylaws. And in phase 3, we're no longer thinking of day to day. So now maybe we can think of assessing ourselves. Where are we in our trajectory of, I guess, sophistication? So creativity is when we all got started as this nonprofit. There's chaos, there's creativity, there's a lot of energy. And then as a little bit later, there's more direction. We have systems in place. And now the board does not clean the toilet. It delegates to the executive director or to the janitor of the organization. I mentioned PANO, the Pennsylvania Association of Nonprofit Organizations. You can download their standards of excellence. It's like a well baby check or a body check, but it's a nonprofit check. So you can go through their list and figure out, are we doing all these things? And there I am. 101. Any questions or comments? So thanks again to the Bar Foundation for offering this program. Not all industries. There's no, the MBAs don't have something like this. I don't think the American Medical Association offers doctors like everything you want to know about serving a nonprofit. So we're we're lucky to have the Bar Foundation do this. It started several years ago, and it's great that you all, despite your busy lives and your work and your debts to law schools, that you've agreed to want to serve on a board of a nonprofit and help make the nonprofit better and stronger. You work with nonprofits, and you want to tell us your name and what the firm does in case you're all stuck with something. Take it away.
Sorry, this is my voice. I'm Hayes Pajenko. You might remember me from the Nuts and Bolts. My firm is Fleming Pajenko. We're at 18 MJFK. We represent nonprofit organizations. So if you have any questions while you're working with your boards, feel free to bounce them off me. If you think of something you don't want to ask your boards and you want to just run it by me.
Great. Yeah, so again, there's a number of people who specialize in nonprofit law. One, I mentioned Don Kramer, who does not believe in terms of office. There's Laura Solomon, and there's other nonprofit law firms. By the way, always on CLEs like this, we're asked, should we be the lawyer, because we're lawyers, should we be the lawyer for the nonprofit? And the answer is no. For that, you go to a lawyer. So the standard is it's civil. What would a reasonable person agree to buy that building over there because we need to leave? Would a reasonable person agree to give rise to change the bylaws? You are not giving legal nonprofit advice, for that go to the expert. You are just a board member who happens to have a law degree. So say, I'm honored, but no, this is not my thing. I'm an immigration lawyer, I'm a blah blah lawyer, I'm not a nonprofit lawyer, but I think a reasonable person would say, yeah, our building is falling apart, and that building over there is cheap. I think we should move, even though I'm not a real estate lawyer. So that's the reasonable person standard. Thanks again, and maybe see you around town. There's tea and water and Coke, so take one.
And if you guys have any questions at any time, or need the contact list sheet that I sent out again, please just reach out to me or any member of the steering committee. And thank you guys so much for coming.
Tell them that their battery is dead.
Yeah.